Stakeholders may include WASA, TNTech, HDC, Traffic Management, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Agriculture, Commissioner of State Land, and of course the residents. We in the United National Congress remain committed to doing all we can to help reduce crime and make our country safe again.
Thank you, Seema, and thank you, MP for St. Augustine, Khadija Amin, my colleague here this morning, who, along with myself, are bringing some critical issues that has been happening in the country over the last few weeks. And before I get into my presentation, I just want to add what MP Khadija Amin was saying about the food card delay. There has been a delay by the delivery of these food cards to the members of parliament, and I think I want to also put it on the record that I am assuming it's not only the opposition MPs who have not gotten their food cards to be able to give out to their constituents. I think it's on both sides of the floor, the PNM and the opposition. So we hope that I have just gotten an email from the Ministry of Social that has said basically that Friday we can collect these food cards, and now Friday is technically 24 hours before Christmas or 48 hours before Christmas. So that would mean that some of the MPs would have to make arrangements on Saturday to get these cards out to their constituents, their deserving constituents of these food cards. Now, I just want to listen to Khadija about the food cards. Some MPs would have gotten food cards to give out in their respective constituents, and it is very, I would say, nerve-wracking to hear Khadija mentioning that some of the food cards are declining when the constituents go to the supermarkets to purchase their goods. And, you know, I'm assuming that Khadija would have had first-hand information on actual individuals, because I think Khadija was one of the lucky MPs who would have gotten their food cards to be able to give out to their constituents. And if those food cards are declining when they actually go to the supermarket, besides being an embarrassing position for those constituents, what is the recourse to these individuals? Do they now have to send back the cards to the Ministry of Social Development to reactivate it? So that is a very worrisome issue, and I'm hoping that the cards that will be issued to the remaining MPs on Friday, that these cards are actually activated, so that we don't have that embarrassing situation like what has been happened based on the reports from MP Amin. Citizens, well-wishers, we are 4 days away from Christmas. The opposition continues its job of speaking up for the people of our nation. Today we say that the best gift that the people of this nation deserve is justice, honesty, and fair treatment from a government that has yet again, for another year, abdicated its responsibility to the people of our nation. Today I will discuss a few issues. I will discuss the Paria tragedy and that report. I will call for honesty on the colossal failure of Nikon, which was the old WGTL. I will also demand fair treatment for small business owners who have been denied a proper supply of foreign exchange. I will call for answers on the government, and there appears to be a cover-up or a shortage of bitumen, and that is why our roads are in the state that they are. I will also demand some accountability on the dragon gas, and I will also demand some issues. I'll raise some issues at the Atlantic LNG restructuring, and about crime, and about property tax. So let me start off. Today marks 21 days since the Paria report has been given to the President. 3 weeks later, we call on the Prime Minister to state why the families, loved ones, and public who have all faced turmoil over this issue remain in the dark. The Cabinet has had 3 weeks to consider this report. Today we call on the Prime Minister to tell us what is the delay. What are you hiding from the Parliament, from the families, and from the country? At a press conference on December 8, 2023, the Prime Minister started giving us excuses that the report's publication could be delayed like the Clico-Coleman report due to legal issues. Today we tell the Prime Minister, end those excuses. The Commission of Inquiry is different because unlike the Clico debacle, the lives of 4 men were lost. We call on the Prime Minister to stop using legal issues as an excuse. There are mechanisms within our Parliament which will protect the sanctity of this report without hindering any future legal issues. We will not allow you to fool the nation into thinking you require a green light from external officers to lay it in Parliament. We are saying, place it before the GSC or place it before a special select committee in Parliament where we can consider the findings. Today we call on the Prime Minister to tell this country specifically when this report will be laid in Parliament or made public. Now, and I see my colleague from the media who is here, and I just want to remind the media, this is the same Prime Minister on the 1st of November 2023, where he laid and gave a report, and the title of the report is called the Saga of the So Solomon Ho-Choi Highway Extension to Point Forte Project from 2010 to 2023, an account of the development and execution of the largest infrastructure development project implemented in Trinidad and Tobago. Now the Prime Minister, when the opposition told the Prime Minister when he was reading out this report, and some of us, I think it was a member of the Sama Paria, stood up and said that it is a sub judice matter. He did not take on the opposition and still read out the report and laid it into the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure for urgent detailed examination. So the Prime Minister didn't hide and came up with legal issues when he laid that report. But now you see, when a report on the Paria Commission has to be laid, he is given the implications that some legal issues might arise that might defer the report from being laid in Parliament. And we are saying to the Prime Minister, please make that report public so that the families could get some closure, and the country, because we have spent over $15 million on that Commission of Inquiry. And I want to remind the country the words of the chairman of that inquiry, the esteemed King's Counsel Jerome Lynch, and I quote, "This is a public inquiry using public money involving fatalities, and thus there could be no greater driver to make this report public than those facts." So 21 days ago, when one of the most damning elements publicly revealed by the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry was a treatment towards the families of these divers. I want the population to remember the words of King's Counsel Jerome Lynch. "We feel compelled," and I quote, "we feel compelled to observe that the victims of this tragedy have had very little in dealing with this loss, both mentally and financially. We cannot help but think that this is something that should have been addressed, if not by the companies involved, by the government. It would have been an act of kindness and human decency to make some ex gratia payment without accepting any liability at all, but helping when they needed it the most." This is a quote from King's Counsel Jerome Lynch in his wind-up when he laid that Commission of Inquiry report. Today, the opposition, we call on the government to tell us what they have done to help those families since this revelation. I now want to turn a little bit on to Nikon. As a member of Parliament for Pointe-à-Pierre, and the Petrotrain and the Pointe-à-Pierre estate resides in the Pointe-à-Pierre community, we are 11 days away from the end of 2023. And for the last 12 months, the people of this nation have posed serious questions on Nikon, especially the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. The people of this nation have given up billions in assets and tax-funded deals for Nikon to become an entity. We gave up, and I want to remind the population, we gave up a $1 billion plant. We gave preferential gas supplies. We accepted a take-or-pay agreement for all of its output. So we as citizens have a duty to call for answers on Nikon. In the last year, no other energy industry company has been called into question like Nikon. Up to this day, they could not publicly prove to us that they were safe to operate. They have placed the community of Marabella, which is as part of the Pointe-à-Pierre community, into a vulnerable place by repeatedly refusing to guarantee to the fence line the safety of that plant. Our population was horrified when an individual lost his life, Mr. Alan Lane Ramkisoon, on the plant. To this day, we have no proper report on the cause of the death. And I just want to show an article yesterday in the Senate. That question was raised by the Honorable Senator Wade Mark about that Nikon report. And the response he got from the leader of the Senate on the government bench, at the time, I think it was holding on, was Senator Gopi Schoon. And she reported her answer because the question was posed to the Minister of Energy and he was absent. And Senator Gopi Schoon's response was that Nikon report is private business and it would not be laid in Parliament. As a member of Parliament for Pointe-à-Pierre, I have called on time and time again for the two reports to be laid. One was the first blast that rocked the communities of Pointe-à-Pierre and San Fernando and Tabaquite, and that explosion about maybe 2 months after the plant had opened. And now we have the death of Mr. Alan Lane Ramkisoon. I have called on those two reports to be laid in Parliament and so that we can understand the situation that is taking place on that plant. Now, and I am asking this government, please do not hide behind legal ramifications or legal issues, because if you could do it for the highway report that was laid by the Prime Minister on November the 1st, you can do it for any report that the public demands. So today, we call on Nikon and the Minister of Energy to tell us, because Nikon owes the taxpayers of this country over $133 million in gas that they got from the upstream, downstream gas company. And you would have seen in the last few months, Nikon is unable to pay their bills, they are unable to pay their vendors, and we are asking, given the preferential treatment we gave to Nikon as taxpayers of his country, what arrangements is Nikon making to repay that debt of, firstly, we know of only one debt, of over 133 million TT dollars owed for gas given to Nikon. So we call on the Minister of Energy to respond on that. We call on him. And Nikon financial issues are not just troubling to the public and to us in the opposition, but to shareholders of the Republic Financial Holdings Limited, who raised banks' exposure as a result of the Nikon loans, according to the Trinidad Guardian, 12th December 2023. And I quote, at the shareholders meeting, the President and CEO of the Republic Financial Holdings reported that the non-performing loans in their portfolio had increased year on year. And we are asking, is it due to that $150 million loan that Republic Bank had given to Nikon? And one would remember that Ms. Alison Lewis, who is currently the Vice President of Nikon, also served as a former Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, also sat on the Republic Board when that loan to Nikon was issued by Republic Bank. And so we are asking, are there any implications? Because I am a shareholder, like so many of us, of Republic Bank Limited that is traded on the stock exchange. I ask as a shareholder, are there any implications of that Nikon loan to the financial performance of Republic Bank? I now want to turn to foreign exchange, which is a critical issue as it relates to the Christmas season. 2 months ago, the Minister of Finance was boasting that his budget was geared at building capacity for diversification. Yet in the past weeks, it has become evidently clear that this government is anti-small business or against the survival of small businesses, as they have abandoned small businesses with the supply of foreign exchange. These are not the words of the opposition, but the proof was published in the Trinidad Guardian on the 17th of December 2023, which stated, and I quote from the Guardian, "Just 1 week before Christmas, the country's business community is battling with the lowest supply of foreign exchange in years. As a result, this country's small and medium businesses are struggling to survive or even make profits. This government likes to do as if the foreign exchange shortage only affects those who buy online, but it has a trickle-down effect on all of us. These are what some of the chambers of our business chambers have been saying in the last few weeks, leading up to Christmas. Couva Point Lisa's chamber. If the situation is not dealt with soon, it will contribute to inflation. The price of goods will go up." This is their comment about foreign exchange. Shagona's Chamber of Business. Some businesses, and I quote, "Some businesses have had to reduce their workforce and merchandise to stay in operation." That's Shagona's, which right now where we are. San Fernando Business Chamber. And I quote, "If you see the vendors on the streets, small businesses, micro, medium and large, everywhere you turn, it's not doing as well as expected." So, Port of Spain and all, where I have just come from, there are a lot of traffic on the road, but when you visit downtown Port of Spain, or you visit in my community of Marabella, which I'll get to, it's a ghost town. There are no buyers. Nothing is happening at this point in time. And yesterday we had cricket, and there was a crowd in the cricket. I don't think in the wildest dream I could have ever thought that people would have attended cricket in the week leading up to Christmas. It has never happened before. That tells you that there's nothing happening in our country, and people are better off going and watch West Indies versus England than to, it is more fruitful to them than to go and shop, because they just don't have the money. So we face an island-wide foreign exchange crisis, which is crippling or has crippled hundreds of businesses throughout the nation. But this foreign exchange crisis has been manufactured by the Minister of Finance. Lack of urgency and care for the situation. Since September 26, this Minister of Finance, he promised to have a dialogue with businesses ahead of Christmas on foreign exchange. Then in his budget in October, he promised to address the foreign exchange crisis for small and medium enterprises. On November the 1st, 2023, at a press conference, the Minister of Finance promised to work with the Exim Bank to create a specific foreign exchange supply window for small and medium enterprises to obtain foreign exchange. As we have understood, this has never been implemented and is just words by the Minister of Finance once again. So month after month, the Minister of Finance has promised to deal with this crisis, yet has taken no action to the point where the small and medium enterprises are collapsing. But while the small firms cannot access foreign exchange, the large companies like Massy, who are not even net earners of foreign exchange, are using up foreign exchange, from what we have read yesterday and today, to train their executive management in training to talk to the dead. Right? So we are aghast. I think the country, the social media is blowing up in respect of what has transpired based on the articles that have been reported in the major newspapers. The Trinidad Guardian reported yesterday that Massy Holdings executive vice president used the group's 100th annual meeting to raise issues about the company using scarce foreign exchange on an executive management program at a cost of tens of thousands of US dollars per participant to travel to the United States to be trained to communicate, and I quote, these are not our words, with the dead and self-heal with white light energy. Now, why am I raising this issue with Massy? The ownership of Massy, at least over 34% of Massy is owned by you, the taxpayers of this country. I don't know if we are aware of that. Via state companies like NIB and so on, together, 34% of that shareholding of Massy is owned by you, the taxpayers of the country, not the PNM. The taxpayers of this country. That is why we felt it important to raise this issue, right? Now, the irony of this issue that has been raised, in my view, from a personal level, the individual at Massy, who's an executive, raised it, and she's being chastised and condemned for raising it. Now, that individual, that lady, we consider her a whistleblower. We consider her a whistleblower. She's doing her job. And she is being chastised by the high executive management of Massy for being a whistleblower. And you would remember when this PNM government bought whistleblower legislation, Massy Holdings was one of the first companies, if I remember, coming out and talking about whistleblower legislation. And it is a good thing for the country. So now that Massy Holdings, one of their senior executives, is whistleblowing, they have a problem. They have a problem with whistleblowing, Massy Holdings. And that is, hypocrisy at its best. That is hypocrisy at its best. And we have more to say on that entire Massy Holdings issue. And we have more to say because we own, you the taxpayers, we own over 34% of Massy Holdings. And I want to touch a little bit on the fence line communities of my community of Pointe-a-Pierre. Again, in respect to foreign exchange and the closure of Petrotrin. Since the closure of Petrotrin 5 years ago, and the non-supply of getting foreign exchange, Marabella, which consists of a lot of small and medium businesses, presently, as we talk today, a couple of days before Christmas and leading up to Christmas a few weeks, has been a ghost town. And recently, I have gotten information through a FOIA, where when the shutdown of the refinery, over $34 million have been paid to one company over the last 4 years to just watch the Petrotrin refinery, while thousands of my community in Pointe-a-Pierre are suffering. That is insane to understand that $34 million have been paid to a company, a private company, to just look and watch the refinery over the last 4 years, while the people of Pointe-a-Pierre have been suffering. I want to turn to an issue that I got in the mail, in my mailbox, about the bitumen shortage in our country. And I want to say that, we have raised it before. I think Dr. Munidal had raised that whole bitumen issue in Parliament a few months ago, and the Minister of Works and Transport said there was no shortage. But the information we have, there is a shortage. Not only a shortage, But because the shutdown of the petroleum refinery that used to produce bitumen for our country, the type of bitumen that is coming in our country right now, there is no quality control on the bitumen. So people are now importing, contractors now importing bitumen, and there are no standards in the import of bitumen. And that is why you are seeing certain aspects of our roads. For example, I understand the new area that they did from Point Forte, the new extension of that highway that this P&M completed. The contractor that used the bitumen, there are issues with the quality of that bitumen, and some of the areas of the road are being eroded. Just recently they did some patchwork between Claxon Bay flyover to Gasparillo on the north side, on the south side, especially when you pass Macaulay, and those patches have been started to be eroded and destroyed. And we want to believe it's the quality of the bitumen. It's the quality of the bitumen that's being imported. And we understand there's a shortage of bitumen in our country. So we ask the Minister of Works once again to come clean with this country and tell us if there's a shortage of bitumen to even import, or is there any quality control in the respect of the bitumen that is being imported. So I leave that right there, that bitumen issue. I just want to touch a couple other areas on gas supply. As we head into the new year 2024, as a nation we must be concerned because yet again the Minister of Finance has hung his hat where he cannot reach in terms of the natural gas pricing in his budget. The natural gas price is currently $2.50 on the world market. The Minister of Finance has pegged his budget at $5, despite their claims of earning a basket price. Because every time you ask the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister, they tell you, well, it's a basket price and it's not what is traded on the world. What we see, for all intents and purposes, the normal man sees the price of $2.50 when you check the commodity markets in the world. But the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister and the Minister of Energy, when they talk, they tend to want to say, well, it's a basket price the country is earning around the world. The Minister of Finance must tell us, with lower production and almost certain lower prices, how will this affect his revenues and our revenues going into 2024? Will he come at mid-year and ask for more billions of dollars to satisfy his deficit? Because he already has a deficit in his budget when he presented. So is it going to be a larger deficit that he will come in April, ending of April or early May, asking again for billions of dollars to fund his budget? So that takes care of the gas supply. There's some issues I just want to touch on based on what I saw in the papers today, and it has to do with the property tax. Yesterday in the Senate, they debated the finance bill that the lower house debated a week ago. And it is interesting, in one of the daily newspapers, it says, the headline says, Federation Park homeowners object to $20,000 rental value. Federation Park. Now, we all know Federation Park. Federation Park is where the rich people live. People like myself and Kevin Gibbs and Khadija, we don't live in those areas. Maybe Sean Douglas lives there. But Federation Park is where the elite of this country lives. Now, imagine the Minister of Finance was able to respond to these people. When we in the opposition, for the last 2 years, all MPs have been going out, pounding the door by door, having consultations on property tax, telling people that this will bring hardship to you. We were speaking to the media. We were talking about it in Parliament. We were talking about this valuation that Imbert is using is wrong. Imbert used to say the opposition and the opposition leader, we're talking foolishness. But today, because the elite people in Federation Park has raised an objection, Minister of Finance seems to have a voice and seems to say he will take it under consideration, what they are saying. Now, that is hypocrisy again at its best. Because the poor man, the opposition, was fighting for our constituents through the length and breadth of this country. Not only for our constituents, but for everybody in this country called Trinidad and Tobago. We were telling everyone that this property tax valuation that Minister of Input has come up with is ridiculous. It is going to cause hardship. So the Federation people, and I wouldn't be surprised that the Goodwood Park people also join in, and Minister Imbert will have a voice and will understand what they're saying. Now I'm happy that the Federation Park individuals or homeowners have found their voice, because when you were challenging this property tax over the last 2 to 3 years or 5 years of this government, every year they bring in property tax. The business chambers, where these same people live, used to condemn the opposition and said, what's wrong with property tax? What is wrong with property tax? We must pay property tax. But now when these individuals get the valuation from Minister Imbert, all of a sudden they have a problem. I am happy they have a problem, you know. I am happy they have a problem. But they waited 6 or 7 years or 8 years too long to get a voice. And we hope that this is a start of their voices being heard, because it's only when they lead talk that Minister Imbert and Prime Minister Rowley tends to listen. So it is, I would say, hypocrisy at its best by Minister Imbert. So that is the one issue about property tax. And as I end, I want to just touch a bit on crime. On crime. And it is critical, because I think my colleague Khadija Amin, MP, had mentioned about crime. I think the figure to date based on the Express is 553 murders to date. And it is interesting, there's an article in one of the dailies, and the headline is, law-abiding citizens can be collateral damage. Law-abiding citizen can be collateral damage. It was a report done by one of the leading reporters in our country. She interviewed 3 individuals, Dr. Mukesh Basdeo, Dr. Winford James, and a well-renowned Reginald Dumas, well-respected and well-known Mr. Reginald Dumas. And I just want to read a couple of their words to tell us, to tell you, the citizens, where we are in respect to crime in our country. And I want to start out by saying that yesterday we had a match, England versus West Indies, in the Lara Stadium. And the English team is staying at the Hyatt. And according to reports, there was a murder outside the Hyatt on Sunday night. And the English team was actually banned by their management from leaving the Hyatt, because they feared for the lives of the English cricketers. So basically, that does not do us well as a country. And who is in charge? Prime Minister Rowley and his team is in charge of this country for the last 8 going into 9 years. And I just want to leave a quote done from this article, today's article, by Mr. Dumas, Reginald Dumas. We all know Mr. Reginald Dumas. And I quote, Dumas said Trinidad and Tobago is not a safe place, and the root causes of crime must be addressed. And I want to quote what he said. I regret to say that this is a dangerous place to live in, which is Trinidad and Tobago he's talking about, because nobody knows what is going to happen. You might be an innocent bystander getting caught up in a volley of bullets. You could be at home minding your business and people invade your home. You could be sleeping at home and people point guns through the window and shoot you. So Trinidad and Tobago is certainly not what it used to be, especially with all these guns now so readily available. This end quote. This is a quote of well-respected, patriotic son of the soil, Mr. Reginald Dumas. This is not the opposition words. So I am just quoting what he said and his views of crime, of his love country. And I just end with Dr. Winford James, another well-respected economist. And I quote, Dr. Winford James, danger outstripping the beauty of Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is too dangerous for anybody's comfort. And more it seems to be that the danger of living here in Trinidad and Tobago is outstripping the beauty of living here. He said the police do not inspire confidence in the population, neither to foreigners who visit here. These are the words of two patriotic sons of the soil, Dr. Winford James and Mr. Reginald Dumas. Not the opposition, not what we have been saying this for the last 8 years since this government has taken place. We have said that ad nauseum, but nobody takes on the opposition until Federation Park talks, or Dr. Winford James, or Reginald Dumas. But we in the opposition have been saying these issues, raising these issues over the last 8 years to the business chambers, to the elite, to the man on the street, to the people who sit on the sidelines, to the media. We have raised all these issues we have raised here this morning, and yet we seem to be condemned when we raise these issues. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to, in closing, before I close, I would like to bring Christmas greetings on behalf of the opposition and the leader of our great party, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and her team and her family. I just want to say these are our Christmas greetings as I end, before we take questions from the media. On behalf, and I quote, and on behalf of the political leader and all UNC members of Parliament, I would like to wish the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago a holy, blessed, and Merry Christmas 2023. The political leaders' wish for Trinidad and Tobago this Christmas is a society which protects the vulnerable, offers opportunity for all, no matter their circumstances. A nation where all are safe as well as secure. A country which provides an economy that offers hope for all, and a society which enables every citizen to achieve their true potential. The political leader, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar's gift to our country is that we in the UNC will continue to be strong advocates for a better Trinidad and Tobago. Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar has led the UNC to be the most vocal opposition in our nation. Rest assured, we will remain your voice, your defender, and your guard against the injustice of this present government. We offer a solemn wish for peace, happiness, and joy this season. We urge all who can to help those without this season. We urge all to use this season to offer love and goodwill. This season, it cannot be business as usual. It must be about powerful actions to help our citizens in need. Let us have a heart and show love this Christmas. And I thank you for listening, and I take any questions that we have from the media, either to myself, MP for Pointe-a-Pierre, or Khadija Amin, the MP for St. Augustine.
Right. So we're looking at the Paria Commission of Inquiry report and also the Nikon accident report. I can't actually remember what the latest the Prime Minister would have said on the Paria report. I know there's a formality that it has to be sent to the President, and then the President sends it to Cabinet, but I'm not sure in terms of whether he had given a commitment to lay it, or if they I'm not. So I don't know if you could remember what the Prime Minister said.
Thank you, Sean. When the Prime Minister had his press conference, when he was presented the report from the President, I think I want to give kudos to the President. She wasted no time in sending that report that was given to her by King's Counsel Jerome Lynch, Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry. Prime Minister Rowley, in his press conference, said that how, in reviewing the report, initial review of the report, and it has to be discussed at cabinet. He took the angle that, you know, if there are some legal issues that the cabinet felt needed to go to another level, that it might not come to Parliament or be made public. And he referred that similar to the Coleman-Clico inquiry report, that when this present government received that report, they sent it to the DPP. And I think the DPP has it, and they have now, you know, and what the government is doing is saying, has thrown the whole issue onto the DPP to say, well, the DPP, it is in the hands of the DPP. And we in the opposition, I think the country is crying out to understand what actually happened to those 4 divers. As I had said, Sean, the Coleman report, Clico inquiry report, is not like this Paria report. The Paria report, 4 men lost their lives. The country has spent over $15+ million and looked at it on television and the media and the social for over the last 12 months. So we must, that report, we are demanding that that report be laid in Parliament so that it can come towards, so we can have a better understanding to bring closure to the country, not only the family members, but to the country, to tell this country that we are a fair and open, transparent country, and we're not about hiding anything.
And moral suasion, do you think that would be sufficient? If not, is there anything else could be done, let's say a freedom of information request or some sort of legal action at all? I don't think moral suasion works with this Prime Minister. I think he will buff us to heaven when we ask about moral suasion. That's his style. So I don't think moral suasion even works with this government or any of his ministers. We will have to look at the legal ramifications if there's any that we can take it to another level. I mean, we have some brilliant lawyers. We have a senior counsel in the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissessar. So we look at that, Sean, and we'll get back to you. But we'll give this government some time, but not too much time, because they would have read the report by now, because it's a hot topic. So this government cannot tell me, or this Prime Minister cannot tell us, this country, they have not reviewed that report as yet. All right? If they have not, then that's a dereliction of their duty in this country, in our view. I don't know if your team would have had opportunity to set a timeline, because, okay, we're like late December now, and you're thinking continue if it's, say, February, March, April. Have you had a chance to set a timeline? We haven't set a timeline, but I think with good sense prevailing by this government, I think the government should set their own timeline and understand the urgency and the importance of this report. They like to talk about value for money and wastage of money. So they have spent, they picked King's Counsel Jerome Lynch. We had no part in it. He has done a tremendous job in our view, and his work will go in vain if that report has not come to us in quick time. And even the argument that, well, the cabinet has to see if there are any legal ramifications. I mean, somebody once said, "Publish and be damned." This is a media phrase that they use now. One is a great English statesman once said, "Publish and be damned." Yeah, and I agree with that, because let the chips fall where they may. You know, the Prime Minister always like to say, "Let the chips fall where it is." He's not, hiding anything from anybody, because he was not part of it. So I agree with that statement, Sean. I think the Prime Minister should take the opportunity and just lay the report and let the chips fall where they may. But it didn't happen with the Coleman report, the Clico inquiry, which is under his tenure. So, let's wait and see. There was, yesterday in Parliament, the Honourable Paula Gopi-Schoon, speaking on behalf of Energy Minister, said basically that the Nikon inquiry report was basically property of the company. It was, I'm not sure to use the word property, but the implication was that this is some physical property, the ownership, an implication of ownership. Right. I don't know if they have been hiding for the last 12 months behind that statement.
that Nikon is a private company, and what happens at Nikon is it doesn't have anything to do now with the government. I want to remind Paula Gopi-Schoon and Minister of Energy Stuart Young, and even the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Finance, Mr. Imbert, who chairs the Energy Committee that I am a member of, and have raised that issue of laying the report. If you don't want to lay the report in Parliament, bring it before the Joint Select Committee of Energy. And I am yet to get a proper answer why that has not been done. They've been hiding behind the legal issues and also the private issues. But I want to remind you, Sean, that Nikon plant sits on the property and the estate of what we know as Pointe-a-Pierre Refinery Estate. And that belongs to you and I and everyone of this country. And also we have safety issues for my community of Marabella and the environs. And the Minister of Energy is responsible for companies that exist on the estates of whether it is Pointe-a-Pierre or Point Lisas, and they have to report to the Ministry of Energy. So and even the environmental, even the health and safety issues. So that is a cop-out answer that Paula Gopi-Schoon gave. I think that's an answer that has been given for a while, and I don't know why they keep protecting the players at Nikon. I don't know why.
I want to look at the crime issue.
Sure.
And with reference actually to Honourable Minister Fitzgerald Hines had a press conference a couple of days ago, mentioned a couple of things. Well, talking about like the causes of crime, he said, well, the government done, the budgets are so huge on social expenditure, on education, on health, that there's so much being given. But in the question session, I suggested that there was some sort of disconnect, like, you're putting all this money out there, but yet still some people are not getting access. And so my question really is the causes of crime. Like, when is the country going to have a debate on it? For example, now Parliament will have discussions on particular issues, if it's say the bail or firearms, like little particular or even no confidence motion. But can Parliament or the opposition in Parliament call for an active debate on, say, causes of crime? Any thoughts on that? Let
me answer the last question after. I want to bring in MP Amin, because her constituency is directly hard hit by a particular area in crime, and she had raised it earlier when she started off her presentation. So Khadija, and I'll come back in.
Thank you, Sean. We in the opposition believe it's important to engage the public in recommendations for crime fighting and reducing criminal activities. When in government, we successfully reduced the number of murders and the number of serious crime tremendously over our tenure, both under the Pasteur Pandey-led government as well as recently by the Kamla Persad-Bissessar-led government. So we do not speak just in theory. The truth is that the UNC has been effective in reducing crime. And it is a multi-pronged approach, and one of the things, you have the hard approach and the soft approach. The hard approach is boots on the ground, law enforcement, joint police and army patrols, in terms of imprisonment and fines, having an effective justice system. But you also have the soft approach in terms of providing mediation for young offenders, in terms of having opportunities in sports, education, and technical and vocational training, particularly for young people, but at-risk persons in these areas that are considered vulnerable in terms of high number of crime, in terms of gang-related activities. And we find that when there is constructive activities, young people will go in a positive direction as opposed to falling prey to gang leaders and criminal activities. There are young people who drop out of school because their parents do not have sufficient income, and they end up selling drugs because they feel that it is a means to earn a quick living. And sometimes they really feel it is a necessity. But what alternatives has this government really provided? So we have seen training programs agencies responsible for tertiary education and skills training shut down. We have seen sporting programs closed. We have seen training facilities, national as well as regional and local training facilities go into shambles. And what that means is our young children with athletic abilities end up turning away from sports. So we are calling for the government to quickly indicate to the public when you will engage in the promised crime talks with the opposition, one. And the opposition leader of opposition has indicated that the opposition stands ready to engage the public in discussions concerning crime prevention, and making Trinidad and Tobago a safer place. And we believe that could be done from a national perspective in terms of policies and national security, but also from a local government perspective. Thank you.
Just to add, Sean, to what MP Amin has said, so as far as legislation in the Parliament, we have over the last 8 years, I think on 3 major occasions, filed a private motion to debate crime. And this has been, there are many times we would have filed a motion under using Standing Order 17, urgent matter of importance to debate issues on crime that would have developed during the week. Issues that, you know, I remember clearly one time they had about 5 murders in one weekend, or, you know, and we would have raised that in Parliament. We would have raised the whole competence issue about this present Minister of National Security in a private motion on crime. But I think to add what we're going to do and what Khadija has just mentioned is that the leader of the opposition has said, that the political leader has said that we'll go out to the stakeholders, we'll go out to our communities, we'll go out to the 5 or 4 different areas using the corporation or the map to hear the views of the people on crime, and then maybe we file another private motion to debate crime in its fullness, given what you have just mentioned to us. So we take that as an advisement. I just want to mention to you, I personally have been touched by home invasion. My aunt and uncle have been touched by home invasion in the last 3 weeks, and they had to fly out of Trinidad and Tobago for their own peace of mind. All right, so it is not, we are not, the opposition is not insulated from issues on crime. We don't have any security officers around with us, like this present set of government ministers. We walk the road freely. I know Khadija, I can speak for myself. I walk very free. I go anywhere, like Khadija, anywhere. We are normal people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we touch the ground, touch the flesh of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
There was another thing from the meeting that Minister Hines said with the forensic science center, and that's the location of the new site, which is going to be Farm Road in Khadija, I know it's Khadija's area, neck of the woods, kind of.
Yeah.
Farm Road in officially in St. Joseph.
Yeah, but it's next door. Yeah.
Experience. In fact, just coming down here in the taxi, we drove and it was very scenic, and you had all these little nursery plants growing and so forth. But have you got any inkling as to whether that area could facilitate such a structure? I think he said it was 50,000 square feet or something. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But have you had any inkling as to where it may be put, or if it's a good fit for the area, knowing that there was some past controversy on what? Any thoughts?
Yes. Certainly, the opposition made strong objections to the use of that St. Augustine Nurseries, which is located at Farm Road in St. Joseph, being utilized for anything except agriculture purposes. The PNM first proposed to use that farm for a multi-story housing complex, which was really an attempt at voter padding. Residents and stakeholders came out and objected strongly. I attended one of the consultations that they held in Curep, where the residents were able to give their views, and there were many who strongly opposed it. And the position remains the same. We believe in securing agricultural land for agriculture purposes. We believe that we must strengthen Trinidad and Tobago so that we can feed ourselves. We believe the government must re-evaluate the use of agricultural land for anything except agriculture, including housing and therefore we would ask them to reevaluate. We have been calling for the Forensic Science Center for a lot of things to be fixed there, including staffing, including equipment and technology, including the accommodation. But certainly, our position has not changed with regards to agricultural land being used for agricultural purposes.
Just to add, Sean, that I just want to remind the viewers about that Forensic Science Center. Has been bandied around that will be built for the last 8 years by this present government. All right. I know it was a gift. It is a gift from the Chinese government, and while it is a gift, we do not understand. The normal man in the street, even the opposition, we don't understand. For heaven's sake, why a forensic science center, which is so needed in our country, given the high murder rate, given to be able to fight, to help the police, to give the police the tools to fight crime, has not been built. And now they are talking about building it in farmland area. There are so many other areas that is uncluttered, doesn't have the kind of traffic and you can locate that forensic science center. All right, and God, I don't understand why they're putting it in St. Joseph. It seems that everything is going in St. Joseph except the Alsing. So I rest that as it is.
Yeah? That's it?
Yeah. Any questions from the?
Yeah, I have a couple sent in to me here.
Yeah.
One, this is to MP Lee. Is the opposition officially saying that based on the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry's remarks, that the government has a duty to help these Paria families, at least for this season?
Well, these are the words of King's Counsel Jerome Lynch, that he is saying minimum, without taking liability ownership, if not the companies, as good citizen, corporate citizens, should have reached out long ago. In our view, in the opposition view, we have been calling for that from day one, that at a minimum, Paria. And if you don't want to take liability, nothing is wrong with that. But at least reach out, especially when the children of these families were going back to school. We were asking and pleading with this government to assist the family members, with the children, to assist them in providing books, meals, school bags to these needy families. Because these families are needy families. Huh? These families don't live in Federation Park. So they could have reached out to these families long ago without the Commissioner of Inquiry, King's Counsel Jerome Lynch, saying that. But they spend millions on lawyer fees. Millions on lawyer fees.
One final question to FPD again. Given that Nikon has virtually collapsed, does the opposition feel vindicated, given it was the opposition which has persistently raised concerns about Nikon?
Well, I don't think the word vindicated is the correct word. I think the opposition, once again, in our due diligence, in our work as an opposition party, as opposition members, that we have, that's the role of an opposition, to ensure that we get value for money for the country, that issues that this government are doing is brought to light, and it's keeping its government in check. That's the role of the opposition, so I don't think the right word is vindicated. But at the end of the day, let the electorate decide when that time comes.
Yeah.
One question for MP Amin. Given the issues they've been having with the food cards,
Yes.
some not working, and people said that illegal delivery of cards, etc., etc. What kind of impact it is going to have on the citizens that we depend on these things on an annual basis?
I think it is unfortunate that we are still in a situation where the PNM has failed to create jobs and create a stable economic environment, so that we still have so many persons vulnerable depending on food cards. The ministry had enough time to plan for this food distribution and the acquisition of the food cards. We were first told that there was a delay in bringing the cards into the country. And so while MPs were told to come on a certain date to collect, these dates were then postponed several times and pushed back. We still have MPs who will collect on Friday, which is 2 days before Christmas, and the ability now to deliver those food cards in an accountable manner is what we also have to be mindful of. Where MPs received the cards and distributed to the constituents are now calling, indicating that when they swipe it at the supermarket, it's saying invalid. That is not a problem with the supplier, that is a problem with the bank and the ministry. And that also must be rectified. It's so embarrassing for a poor person to go pick up all their groceries and swipe and then told it's declined. What we also have is a situation where in several constituencies, they are getting this card being declined. Several opposition MPs have received reports of this, and it's possible that some of the government MPs have also gotten this report. But what you also have is a situation where some MPs were told to collect as late as Friday coming. What happens is that there may be this rush to give this food card to a family so that they can go to the supermarket in time to shop for Christmas. And what we always try to ensure on the opposition side is that we have accountability, that people come with their ID cards, that each person, each recipient signs, and that we don't have a situation where things falling through the crack. So it is very possible that some of the recipients may get their card after Christmas, whereas this was meant to provide relief for Christmas. I want to tell you that the food card, the value of the food card is $550. Because of the increase in food prices, you can get much less groceries this time around. And so that $550 really is basic groceries for a family. It really does not provide like a month's worth of Christmas groceries. You know, it is just a menial amount. And I am saying that for this menial amount, no government minister would use $550 in groceries for their Christmas holidays. And to be providing this with so many hiccups, I think it warrants some explanation. And the Minister of Public Social Development must take responsibility and come out and clarify for the sake of the thousands of recipients in the country before the Christmas holidays. Yeah?
So I just want to say thank you, Khadija. I just want to say on behalf of my colleague, MP for St. Augustine, Ms. Khadija Amin, Vice Chair of the United National Congress, myself, Member of Parliament for Pointe-a-Pierre, and also on behalf of our great political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, opposition leader, and all our UNC MPs and senators, we would like to wish the country a safe and Merry Christmas as much as possible. And I want to also thank the media going forward, and I hope the media will be a bit more, keep this government in check more, and be kind to myself going forward in 2024. I thank you.